Well, welcome everyone. It's hard to believe, but this is our 10th Corona Corner chat. And, as we've been visiting together this way, I've been getting some feedback from a lot of you. So a few weeks ago, I told you that a few of my children that live in New York got sick with COVID-19, and several of you told me that I didn't tell you whether or not they recovered. So I feel obligated now to give you an update. So indeed, they're better. So I know you're happy to know that. And last week, I talked to you a little bit about one of my brothers, and I got a little feedback about that. And some of you were interested in knowing about the sibling rivalry in my family. And I was asked to tell a little bit more about my family. So this week, I'm going to start my chat by giving you a little more information about me personally and about my family. So I know that some of you are aware that I'm a widow, and I was married for 31 years to Mark, who was a transplant surgeon, and we had a wonderful marriage. And we have 3 terrific children, and I'll just tell you a little bit about them. So my oldest daughter, Eliza, is a lawyer, married to a lawyer, and they have 3 beautiful children, all 5 and under. And you might imagine what it's like being in stay-at-home with 3 children. Some of you who have children are dealing with that, homeschooling your kids, and they're dealing with that too. My son, Ari, is an architect, and he's married to a surgeon, Allison, and they have 2 beautiful children. And my daughter, Naomi, is a broadcast journalist, and she's married to Eric, who is a businessman. And they just got married last October, and they don't have any children yet. Well, those of you who are parents think that we're the ones that always educate our children. But if you have children, you know that we often learn a lot from our own kids. So over the many years that I've been a parent, my children have been teaching me a lot of things. And I have to admit that I have learned a great deal from my children. So this year, I have to say that as I've been doing more and more interviews about our situation here at Oakland University and how we've been responding to the COVID threat, I've been putting to good use a lot of the tips that my journalist daughter, Naomi, has been teaching me. And this week in particular, some of the media training that Naomi has been teaching me has come in particularly handy, because this week I had several interviews that were very interesting. So we had an op-ed that appeared in the Detroit Free Press, and I'll make sure that our team makes that available to you so that you could see it. And the primary purpose of this op-ed was twofold. The first was to encourage students who are considering taking a gap year to not take a gap year, but rather to go to college. And the reason is because I'm very concerned that students who are thinking about taking a gap year will have very little to do, and that I really think that they'll benefit so much more from going to college instead. And the second is because I really believe that if they go to college, not only will they get a great education, but they'll also have the opportunity to contribute to fighting the COVID fight, doing many of the things that we've been doing so well at Oakland. They'll have the opportunity to perhaps contribute to finding a cure. They might do things like make face masks or face shields using 3D printers. Maybe they'll contribute to the contact tracing efforts. So they'll be on the front lines of the COVID fight. And I think that is just such an extraordinary opportunity. So these are the 2 things that I wrote about in the op-ed. Well, much to my surprise, I also got an invitation to appear on CNN this week based on that Detroit Free Press article. And all of a sudden, my media training that my daughter gave me came in very handy.
The Oakland University president, Ora Hirsch Pescovitz, joins us now in addition to being a university president. She's also a medical doctor specializing in pediatric endocrinology. So Dr. Pescovitz, President Pescovitz, let me ask you, you say students come back to school, participate in our community. Dr. Fauci yesterday, I'm sure you're well aware on Capitol Hill, says if your hope is there'll be a vaccine ready for students, listen here, won't be ready in time.
In this case, that the idea of having treatments available or a vaccine to facilitate the reentry of students into the fall term would be something that would be a bit of a bridge too far. Even at the top speed we're going, we don't see a vaccine playing in the ability of individuals to get back to school this term.
So Cal State says we're not going to take the risk. We don't trust that we can have the social distancing, that there will be therapeutics. What makes you confident that you can bring students back to campus in Rochester, Michigan and make it work?
Well, thank you, John, for having me today. And actually, I agree with Dr. Fauci. I'm also concerned about having a resurgence of COVID-19. And that is why we're actually proposing a hybrid approach to reopening our campuses. That means that for classes that are primarily laboratory-based, we think that we can do this in a safe way. But for large classes, we think that we're still going to have to do it in a remote learning kind of approach. So I do applaud the California state decision. But for universities like ours that actually have only about 20% of our students as residential, we think that we can open in a hybrid way, and we think that that is a safe and effective thing. Those universities that are planning to open like we are can do it with a combination of testing, contact tracing, and also serology testing as well.
And I want to read, it's your op-ed piece. It's a bit of a pep talk, if you will. Students, please don't sit on the sidelines. We need your talents, ideas, and energy. We also need every ounce of your knowledge and expertise as we fight the pandemic and navigate soaring job losses. When the crisis ends, and it will, history shows that the best jobs will go to those with college degrees and advanced skills. That's a pep talk for students. Come back or apply. If you're a new student, come in. You said you think you're prepared for this with the right hybrid approach. So what are you doing? I assume you're walking around campus now, or you have experts walking around campus now in terms of a local right-on-campus testing infrastructure or something in coordination with the county or the state? How are classrooms being reimagined to keep people safe?
Well, we're working very hard on social distancing. So we know that we can't imagine a classroom like last fall. And so we're going to ensure that there's a great deal of social distancing so that the classes will be spread out. Classrooms that used to have 120 students, this year might only have 30 students. And we won't have athletics like we used to have in the fall. We will not open with spectator sports. An arena that used to have completely be full for a basketball game, for example, will definitely not be looking at that this fall either. But we do know that it is important for students to experience the college experience. And that means being around other students, having homecoming, and having the opportunity to be around other students in residence halls and things like that. And so we're trying to imagine how we might do that in innovative and in entrepreneurial ways. So, for example, we deferred our commencement this spring, and we're looking at how we can do that in a novel experience. So we're looking to do that this August, for example, through a drive-through kind of experience where they can be on campus, but in their cars. So we can be entrepreneurial, and I really think that that's very important. You mentioned that you looked at my op-ed. There's another component to that, and this is another reason why I really want students to go to college this fall, because I think that they can participate in fighting this pandemic if they go to college this year, because universities around the country are going to participate in a very important way in the COVID fight. They might be participating in laboratories where they're contributing to developing a cure. They might help by making 3D shields. They might make masks. They might contribute to serving the poor. And colleges are going to be on the forefront of this pandemic fight.
Dr. Pescovitz, I wish you good luck. Keep in touch as the metrics come in. How many students come back, how many are reluctant to do so. It's a fascinating experiment we're going to go through. Really appreciate your time and insights today. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, John.
And I'm looking forward to getting your feedback, and I will be delighted to have you write in a comment and let us know how you think we did. Thank you very much, and we'll talk to you next week in our 11th Corona Corner chat. Good to see you.